really became a goal of mine to make it the best converting site possible. And with that came speed, design, and really just trust.
Hey, my name is Felix Satia, and I'm the host of Shopify Masters, a weekly podcast powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. Each week, we invite entrepreneurs like you to share what they've learned growing successful e-commerce businesses. In this episode, you'll learn why you should read product reviews when designing a new product, how to address people when they say that they can get the same product for free, and how to change your ads if the buyers of your product are actually different than the end user. Today I'm joined by Chris Gronkowski from Ice Shaker. Ice Shaker is the ultimate cup used for every aspect of a healthy lifestyle and has done $3 million in sales and was started in 2016 and based out of South Lake, Texas. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, excited to have you on. So you told us that you're a former NFL player and had a great social media following, but that means nothing when you try to sell a product no one has ever heard of before. So tell us a little more about this. Like, why were you able to leverage any of that experience or any of that kind of background?
Oh man, so yeah, that was kind of an eye opener for me when I first started posting and really trying to push product through social media. I had a decent following from playing, from being an athlete, from being an NFL player. But when it came down to it, I thought it'd be pretty easy to throw a couple posts up, get a bunch of sales. And that was the exact opposite of what happened. So brand new product, you're on top of the world. You think it's the best thing ever. But your customers, people out there have never heard of it before, aren't just going to jump on the bandwagon just because you think it's cool, just because they follow you. You really have to build some kind of proof of concept, some kind of reviews, and really start building a brand before you actually are able to sell a product, no matter how big your following is.
Got it. So even though you have a brand, a personal brand, it's not good enough. You might give you the kind of opportunity to present yourself, but you still need to have a product that is some that people want or that needs. You need to be solving some type of problem. So talk to us through this. Like, what was the original idea behind the product? Like, what problem were you trying to solve?
Yeah. So the idea of the product came about on a hot day in Texas. So I was out of the NFL at that time. I was continuing to work out every single day. And when I would go to the gym, I'd get a shaker bottle, I'd make a pre-workout or something like that to bring to the gym with me. And by the time I got there, it would be warm. My bottle smelled awful. And I was actually making designs out of the sweat rings that were coming off the bottle on the gym floor. And that's kind of when the idea hit me was, why isn't there something better out there on the market? Some kind of bottle that not only can I bring to the gym, but then also use all day, every day. So I went on a search and got home that day. Went on Amazon. Went on Google. Figured that I'd type it in and something would pop up. That's something I just hadn't seen yet. Kind of like every good idea that you think you have, you go online and there it is. But I went home that day. I looked everywhere, and there was nothing on the market that was insulated with a shaker top on it. So it's when the idea hit me. And at that point, I said, I'm going to make the best shaker bottle that I possibly can make.
Got it. And you do also mention to us that you also have to kind of test this before you jump all the way in. So once you saw that you had a problem, you couldn't find the solutions out there for it, did you first start to test it? Like, how did you know that there were other people out there that were searching for this product or that had this problem?
So for me, first I had to make it. That was the hard part. First I had to figure out exactly what people wanted, the material I wanted to make it out of. And so I went with a kitchen grade stainless steel. I knew that one of the issues with the shaker bottles that everyone knew, if you were a user of a shaker bottle, you're making protein shakes, everyone knows that if you leave protein in them, they're going to smell absolutely awful. And so I wanted to get a material right from the get-go. I knew that was a big problem that was going to solve this issue. So the kitchen grade stainless won't absorb the odor like the plastic shaker bottle does. So even if you leave protein in there, it's going to smell no matter what because it's going to rot after a couple of days. But with the stainless steel, you could pretty much just rinse it with water and that smell's gone. So first had to figure out really what I was looking for in the product. Went from that. There was other stainless steel bottles on the market. So I did a lot of research on that to see why these weren't successful. And the other shaker bottles on the market that were stainless steel, they weren't insulated. So when you put cold in them, stainless steel is actually a conductor, so they were absolutely freezing cold, a lot colder than a plastic shaker bottle would, and would sweat even more. So besides that, though, the reviews were pretty good about the fact that they were stainless steel and they weren't absorbing the odor like the plastic ones were. So really put those two together, figured out make something that was vacuum insulated, that was going to hold ice for a long time, wasn't going to sweat, and then pretty much looked at every other product out there, their reviews, to see what other people wanted, what they're looking for, and tried to put together a product from that. So I started getting prototypes made, get them sent in, and really just settled on a bottle that wasn't the greatest at the time, but would help me figure out if there was a demand for this product. So our very first bottle came out, and we had it shipped in small quantities. At that point, it was just all about testing the market and trying to figure out if people actually wanted this product or not.
Got it. So you mentioned a couple of things there, which is around looking at reviews. I think this is important because you're doing this kind of research before you dove in, so that you can at least get some of the ideas behind what features are important to your target customers. Where were you looking for these reviews, and what specifically were you looking for? Like positive things, negative things? Like what did you find most helpful?
So I was looking everywhere. So you can find anywhere you can find reviews, but for the most part, the ones that are going to be the most accurate are usually on Amazon. And what I was looking for the most part, was just the negative reviews to see what people didn't like, so that I could then fix that issue. So I'd go on and really look at, but I would also read the positive as well to see what people really enjoyed about the product. So when I was looking at other stainless steel shaker bottles out there already, I liked looking at the positive and seeing that people were commenting about the stainless, saying that it was a lot better than having a plastic bottle. And then I'll look at that same product, I'd look at the negative reviews and see that people were complaining about the fact that it wasn't insulated, that it was freezing cold when they put ice in it. So really, both the positive and the negative reviews are huge indicators of what people like and what they don't like. So definitely look at both of them to get a better idea of what customers really find important in a product.
Got it. So it sounds like you obviously have to combine both the positive and negative feedback with these reviews into your new design, your new product. And the positives are things that are almost like must-haves. So you have to kind of come to the table with these things. And the negatives are things that you can improve in and are kind of like the value add, or the core value proposition that you're bringing to the table. And that sounds like basically what you're able to piece together. So now that you have this idea of the product that you want to build, what were the steps to? It sounds like you guys released the first version / almost like a prototype at first. Did you know that that's what it was at first, or did you feel like you almost had like a finished product at that time when you got that first initial small order?
No, at the time, we thought I thought it was a finished product. I thought it was pretty good at the time. Looking back now, it's funny because we've made so many improvements since then. But no, it was the final version. We put it out there, and from that, we just took the customer feedback and continued to improve the product. So anytime we had a bad review, I was reading. Anytime we had a good review, I was reading them. But I was really trying to figure out what customers wanted, and we tried to move as fast as we possibly could after we really got some decent feedback from our first couple thousand bottles that sold. So anytime someone mentioned something, and we encouraged it as well, we would send out emails asking people for their feedback, asking them if there was anything that we could do better, any other features that they'd like to see. And we collected this data to then immediately make a version 2 and get it out before we actually aired on Shark Tank. So within the first year, we already had made a second bottle and released it as well.
Awesome. So when you were selling, when you got that first order that came in, and you started to test to see if there's a band, where were you selling? Were you selling on your own site, or were you selling on another marketplace? Like, what's the best way to kind of get started because you're in a stage where it sounded like you felt like you had a finished product, but you were still very much testing. So looking back, like, how would you set up the test differently if you were to do it all over again?
So yeah, I mean, it was. I guess I would put more into product development, and if I went back, I would have tested it by sending out free product to more people and really getting it to people's hands first before making a big run or a decent run, or even finalizing on the molds on the product, because it's so hard to see what other people are seeing, and when you look at it from your own perspective, you think it's great. And every one of your friends around you are going to pretty much tell you that it's great. But it's really once you get it out into the public that you really start seeing the flaws or start seeing the stuff that you could have done that people really like. So after that, our third version that we just released, when we brought in the lids for it, we brought in just the lids, and we sent them to over 500 customers before we actually started putting that lid on our bottles. We really wanted to get the feedback from them, make sure there's absolutely no flaws in our newest line of lids with our 2019 launches. And if there was any issues, we wanted to change it before we started mass producing it. So really learned that as we went on to really test it by putting it into customers' hands before making final decisions on product designs.
Right. So 500 customers, and these were for this 2019 version. These were existing customers.
So it was customers that had bought from us or were having issues with their current lid that they had. So we were then replacing them for free with what we thought was a better version, which ended up being a lot better version that everyone absolutely loves now. So yeah, anyone that had an issue in the past or any type of issue going forward, we were just sending them new lids for free to really test out and give us feedback on them and see if there was anything that we can improve with it before we put it into mass production.
Got it. So when you were first starting out, it sounded like you were taking the same approach, but I'm assuming you didn't have really any customers at that point, but you wanted to give it out for free to get that feedback. How are you finding the right people to give it to? Like, how do you find, because like you mentioned, the feedback from friends and family, it might be different than the public, right? The people that don't know you, that are, strangers essentially, their feedback's going to be different than people that know you. So how do you make sure you get the product into the right people's hands, especially early on when you don't have a customer base yet?
Yeah, that was the hardest part. Really launching a product from ground up. You have nothing to go off of. You don't have an email list or customers in the past to really build on. So what we had to do was just start doing shows. We had to go to, started with just smaller bodybuilding shows, and we'd go and set up a booth, and we were able to get the product in front of people, show them the difference between what ours was, what was already out on the market, put it in their hands. Really, once they felt it and they saw the difference, we started getting movement on the product. But before that, it was so hard because people had no clue what it was. And so finding them, really, you just have to go out there, set up a booth, put it in front of people. I mean, we were hawking people down just to get them over to the booth at first, but that's what you have to do. And then you have to see their reaction in person as well, because a true reaction is going to be the first immediate reaction to a product. So once we started putting it in their hands and they were seeing the difference between what we had and what was on the market, they were surprised by it. And most people were then buying right on the spot. And that's kind of when we knew that we had something that people wanted.
Got it. So this is, I think, an important point is that when I ask you that question, a lot of people might be thinking, oh, where do you go online to find the right people? You're saying go in person, go to where people are hanging out in person, and then gauge their reaction that way. So when someone comes up to the booth, how does that work? Because like you're presenting them the product. Do you kind of approach them as if you're trying to sell it and see if they'll buy it, or how do you get the right data, I guess, from if someone wants to repeat this process by setting up a booth at some kind of show that is in their industry?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we went in and we had I had no clue what to expect at the first booth. I was hoping just this, if we sold 20 bottles, it would be a lot. And I think that first show we ended up selling 50 to 80 of them, something like that. But it was a good enough amount that I actually went back to, I had to have my wife go back to our house and get more product. So we actually did a lot better than we thought. So really that's all we were looking for was, that reaction where people are going to actually buy it. So if we gave them the pitch, were they just going to go, hey, that's a really cool idea, and then walk away? Or were they going to say, hey, I love this product. Let me buy one right here, right now. So that's kind of how we gauged if it was successful. I would probably say that in person, it gives you a good read because you see the people, but a lot of people also fold the pressure in person, especially if you're a good salesman. So you're really going to get the people, the haters, really to come out and really give you an honest opinion online when they're sitting behind a computer and not facing you, face to face. So another great indication of of how the product's doing, what needs to be fixed, all that is getting reviews online, which we used Amazon at first to really help us out because we didn't have that customer base. And this is something that I really, and I've talked to people about in the past and recommend doing, is using another platform's customer base to get started, because you really have nothing to work off of at all. I mean, you're at ground zero. You have no customer base. You have nothing. So if you're able to use someone else's just to get you started, it's a huge help. And so we did use Amazon early on. Majority of our sales came from Amazon, and all the reviews on there as well really help launch the product and give us trust in our brand.
Got it. So when you are doing this pitch in person, do you remember what was the pitch? What were the kind of key features or key, I guess, what value that you wanted to get across about your product? And is that pitch the same these days?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so we take what else was on the market at the time, so an uninsulated stainless bottle, and we fill it with ice. We take a plastic bottle and we fill it with ice, and we take another plastic bottle and we fill it with protein and let it sit for a couple of days, and tell people not to open it because it smells so bad. But once we filled ours with ice and we hand it to people and say, hey, check this out. Ours has ice in it. Now hold this one. And the one next to it, would be freezing, would be sweating. There'd be condensation everywhere. And people were so impressed that they would actually say, there's no way there's ice in your bottle. And they'd take the lid off and they'd check and see if there's actually ice in it. And of course it was real ice in it. But at that point it was kind of like, oh, wow, this is absolutely awesome. I need to have it. So same pitch all the way today. Our first bottle was very basic. We have so many more features on our newest bottle. So the pitch just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, I like this approach because you're not using words so much to sell it. Like, you're demonstrating in front of them why your product is superior to the competing products out there.
Absolutely. And that's absolutely huge. Once we actually put the bottle in somebody's hands, it was hard for them to say no because it was so superior to what else was on the market at the time.
Got it. Do you remember how much you were selling for those bottles at that time? And is it the same price point as today?
So we were selling our very first version. We were selling at $24.99, and so we do sell our bottles for more now. So once we added some expanded features onto the bottles, we did raise the price up to $30.
Got it. Did ever cross people's mind where, okay, $24, $25, like, I get this like for free, if I buy my protein and everything. Does that come across people's minds? Do you ever have to approach and find out how to address that kind of objection?
Yeah, absolutely. We that's a problem that we were running into early on, and especially when we're trying to get into retail stores like GNC, which we actually are now in 3,500 GNCs. But yeah, that was the first thing that came across every time. Why am I going to buy your shaker? It's so much more expensive when I'm getting them for free. And really, to combat that, it was we showed them all the features, we showed them how awesome it was, but we compared our bottle not to other shaker bottles, but to other bottles on the market that are similar to it. So stuff like a Yeti or a Hydro Flask, where these are vacuum insulated, kitchen grade stainless steel, and they're actually a lot more expensive than our bottle and have less features than ours do. So when people said that, we had to kind of redirect them and get away from the fact that it's not just for the gym. I mean, everyone thinks it's a shaker bottle. I can only use it for the gym. It's really the ultimate bottle that can be used all day for everything. That was really the purpose of it when I made it, was, hey, I love this. I love to bring it to the gym, but I'm using a bottle for work and then going to the gym using another bottle, and then going home and something else. It was really just a bottle used for everything all day, every day, or could also be used at the gym. So once we got that into people's minds and really compared it to something like a Yeti, they saw that this actually had more value. It was actually a better price than what's actually comparable to what it is.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a review on iTunes and let us know what you think or what you'd like to hear more of. Now, let's get back to the interview. So you do change the kind of product that your product is anchored to. You don't compare it to the free product. You compare it to a more expensive product that's on a market that is superior to the free product. But then you're also now showing that your product is giving more value because it has the same features plus more. That's a great point. So you mentioned that you use Amazon at first to kind of get things off the ground and to get that review and to get that kind of credibility by having reviews. Talk to us about that. Like, how did you set up your Amazon business? Like, how were you able to get those early customers? Like, how did they discover you guys on Amazon?
Yeah, that's actually that was a challenge. I mean, when you first go on to any platform, it's tough, and you have to kind of figure out and navigate the rules of that platform. And I had some experience with this with our first business that we had. Actually, my wife started a business while I was still playing in the NFL, and it started through Etsy. And it started the same way kind of as iShaker did, and I kind of followed the same path where she didn't have a customer base at first. She used Etsy to help really get it going, to get customers. And the first thing we ran into was, how do I make a good listing that people are going to actually click on? And how do I get to the top of the first page was really the main challenge. So this all came into play as well on Amazon, same exact thing. And what I did was, and the only thing I could think of was, hey, why are these other ones on the front? Why are they of the front page for Shaker Bottle? And so all I did was I went through every listing, the top 3 listings, top 5 listings, whatever it was on the front page for the terms that I was trying to rank for. And I tried to figure out why they were there and why I wasn't there. And so I look through it, look at pictures, really look at the keywords, look at the descriptions, look how everything was done on the listing. And then I tried to kind of duplicate what the best ones were doing and test it to see if I would then get boosted up, in the rankings on Google's and or on Amazon search. So just kept doing that until finally I was on that front page. And once I was on that front page, that's when things started to pick up.
Yeah, there's so many variables though, right? Like you mentioned all the product description, the title, the pictures. There's so many things that you could see on on a product that is listed on the top. How did you know which ones to pick out? How did you set up your test so that you weren't just kind of running around with your head cut off? Because there's so many different things you could try to fix or change.
Yeah, it's crazy now because even now when I do a new product, I can't even. It's always changing too, and it gets more and more complicated as the years go on. But when I did it then, it seemed to be a lot easier. You change something or you add a couple keywords and you'd add them in the title and then the description, and all of a sudden you're on the front page for that term. And same with just images, I thought helped a lot too. Whereas, if you had good images and they were clean, they'd look good, and then you had really good supporting images with it to really show people a full 360-degree view of the product, it seemed to really, really help and also boost your ratings and really keep people on that page, which I think bumped up the algorithm. But really was looking at the top 2 and saying, hey, I'm going to pretty much copy what they're doing on how they're writing descriptions and photos and stuff like that and see if it works. And for the most part, it worked for us, and that was it. But like I said, I think the algorithm every year gets harder and harder to figure out, and we are still launching and putting new products out every week. We actually just launched a product this week, a 36-ounce bottle, but it's not on Amazon yet. But when we try to put it on, it will be a challenge to kind of try to get it onto that front page.
Yeah, I like that approach. I respect that approach where you're not just trying to make all these tweaks and invent the process yourself. Just look at what's working and copy it, like do it the way that they did it. And of course, you want to add on to that by pointing out, the difference between your product versus theirs. But rather than trying to carve your own path, like find out what's working and just do what they did. So you mentioned that I'm not sure how much you were able to do this in person, but you mentioned that your most 2019 version of the bottle you sent out for free to 500 customers, and you were wanting to gather feedback. Like, what's the best way to do it? How do you gather feedback when you are putting out a product out there to test? Like, what kind of questions are you asking to get the right kind of feedback?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we want to go out there and when you give it free, it's kind of tough because you want an honest opinion. So most of the time when you give someone something free, they're going to tell you it's great. And so you really want to dig down and ask them. And what's cool is that when we were sending it to these people, they were people that were having issues with the previous one, and they were outspoken about it and let us know. So I knew they would be good people to test the newest and better lid with. So I think because of that reason, I was getting really honest opinions back about it, and so that was definitely a good way to do it. But other ways to do it is you can offer both, and that's also something that we did a little bit. Was we would send both versions of it, and we did this with straws actually. We were having some issues with stainless steel straws that we were selling with our tumblers, where some customers were just saying it made their drink taste like metal. Some were saying it was really noisy. Some people were saying it was dangerous, whereas they were drinking and they would, they would put it to their mouth too fast and it would hit their tooth and stuff like that, or it would just get really hot with hot drinks. So we brought in a Triton straw that was really durable, shatterproof, was made for hot and cold drinks. And we tested that out. So we sent them both. We started bringing in product with both. And when they purchased, we didn't even tell them that it was coming with both. We just send it out. And then we follow up with them and say, hey, we know you received our version of the product with both straws. Can you tell us which one you like better? And so from that, we were able to figure out that people liked the idea of the stainless steel straw because they felt like it was more expensive and it was a cleaner version. But when they actually used both, people were actually liking the Triton, which is a form of plastic. They were liking it better, but they weren't buying it just because they thought the plastic was cheaper, even though it really wasn't. This is an upgraded plastic. It actually cost us the same price, but people just had this opinion that stainless steel straw is a better straw. It's going to be more expensive. But at the end of the day, once we actually tested it, everyone liked the Triton plastic straw better. So we actually switched over our product to that because of the issues that we were having with the stainless steel. So that's just another great way to really test the market and see what people actually like better.
That's gonna be a big challenge, right? Where you have two kind of versions of the same product. One people have higher perceived value for and might pay more or might be more willing to buy, but it's a weaker product. They're not as happy with it compared to the product that is not perceived as valuable. So how do you kind of like address that in your own mind? Because it seems like the steel, I guess metallic one is going to be a better representation. Like it's going to be easier to market, right? People are more willing to buy that one, but it's not as good of a price. So how do you kind of justify that in your head, like which direction you want to go?
It was a challenge for sure, and it really came down to the fact that some people, a lady chipped her tooth on a stainless steel straw. It really came down to just being a safety concern for us, and so we had. After we tested as well, and everyone liked the Triton straw better, what we had to do was we had to educate people on why we were changing it. So we ended up shooting out email blasts. We ended up putting the straw in a big description, why we were now selling it with the Triton straw. And then we did also leave the stainless steel straw available on our site for purchase at a cheap price. So we put it on the site for $1, I think $1.25 maybe is what it was. And we gave people the option to still buy it, but really highlighted the fact to why we changed it so that they would know that it wasn't something that we just did to save money, because that was kind of the reason people thought we were switching. But we really had to drive the point home that this is a better product. We're always taking your advice. We're taking your feedback, and we're trying to improve. And so by doing that, people then saw that, and really, once people that were rebuying were getting the new straw, they were actually thanking us for making a better product.
Right. I think that's the key, right? The education piece, because you might be able to sell more of a inferior product, but in the end, it's not going to be the longevity's not going to be there. People aren't going to be happy with it. They're not going to repeat buy from you. They're not going to evangelize your product. So I think you always go with the superior product, the product that is going to make the customer experience better once they actually have their hands on your product, and then educate them why you're doing it that way, even though the product might be perceived initially as a weaker product. So I think I think that's exactly right. So it sounds like you guys, take this feedback which is feedback from the customers is really important to you guys, and you're able to act on it quickly. So how is your kind of like manufacturing setup so that you can be so responsive and swap things in and out and redesign your product so frequently?
I mean, it's tough. It really it is, because every time we do it, we have to then get rid of the old stock, and then we also, we have to make the molds and pay the tooling fees, and then test the product. And so it's not easy, but we know that that's what's gonna, that's how we're gonna survive, is if we continue to improve, if we continue to give our customers what we want. So that's really been the life of the story, and has taken us from one product, really just a little over a year ago, just one bottle, 26-ounce bottle. And maybe, I think at that time we had a couple different color variations, but just from what people were looking for, we've really expanded, and we have 6 different bottles and over 80 different SKUs at this time. But really all that was driven from what customers are looking for. If they're asking for a smaller bottle, larger bottle, different colors, all that we really keep in mind and are able to bring them in and act on them as soon as we collect enough data. So if people are constantly asking for the same thing, that's easy to really bring in and get it going. But we're also then trying to look at our own data and say, hey, what are we missing? And that was one of the biggest things that we brought in was a tumbler. And we brought it in because, looking at our data, we realized that most of the people buying our product were women. And we didn't think that was going to be the case. I thought it was going to be guys around my age that were buying it. But we figured out early on that it was mostly women buying the product, and they were buying it for their husbands or their kids or their grandkids. And we realized really quick that they weren't buying anything for themselves. So we brought in the tumblers, was our third bottle. We brought in, first we had the 26 ounce, we brought in a 16 ounce. We were having a lot of requests for a smaller shaker bottle. And then we brought in the tumblers right away, because we realized that we were missing out on that whole demographic of the women that were purchasing, but weren't purchasing anything for themselves. So use that data to bring it in, and realized that the tumblers immediately became a home run for us, and really became a really, really good seller.
So you are tracking the data and the feedback. What's the system you have set up? Like, how do you kind of have a cohesive view on everything? Because it sounds like it's coming from different angles, right? People are telling you maybe in person, or sending emails, or they're leaving reviews. There's just like data that you're observing from traffic on your site. Like, how do you collect all of this and make a decision?
So one of it was kind of something that I stumbled upon, was the fact that you could take emails from actual purchase emails, and you could then put them into Facebook at the time. And so with that, Facebook was actually going to find these people that purchased from you, find their profiles, and then that you would be able to look at the whole breakdown of who was purchasing from you. And this was before the whole Privacy Act that went into effect recently. But yeah, it would break down your demographics. It was crazy, the amount of information that they had. But obviously, male versus female, household income, where they lived, where they worked, the websites they liked, all that kind of stuff. How many people were in their house, education levels, feedback at Facebook at the time was giving you all of this. And so that was a great way for us early on to really figure out who was purchasing from us. So I think it was around our first 10,000 to 15,000 purchases, we then put that back into Facebook and really broke down exactly who was buying from us. So that data at the time was absolutely huge, because it was really hard for us to really figure out who was actually buying the product. And once we saw that and saw the breakdown, that's immediately when we knew that we had to bring in a product that was more geared towards women.
Yeah, that's an interesting problem to have, where the women are buying the product, but they're buying for someone else at that time. How did you? So you introduced a new product to kind of address this customer base, but if you wanted to continue selling your existing product, how do you change up your marketing if the buyer is different than the end user?
I don't think you really need to. we actually played upon that. We changed some of the ads to be, and we knew what was working, but more geared towards women. We went to marketplaces like Pinterest that was heavily favored with women, and we used similar ads. And what we did was we played more towards the gifting market instead of trying to sell directly to them. We were really selling it as a play on, a holiday or a birthday or some kind of gifting item. So all the ads started kind of to turn towards that instead of a direct sale to them.
Got it. So the tumbler was a product that you introduced to sell to the buyer that is also going to be the end user?
Yes, yeah. So with that, we did directly target the end user, the women, with all the tumbler ads. But the shaker bottle ads, we would gear them more towards gifting if we were targeting the women market.
Can you give some examples of that? Like what would an ad look like, or an ad campaign look like if it was to target more of the gifting market?
Yeah, what's really cool about our website is we're actually able to personalize each and every bottle. So we do laser engrave the bottles in-house. You come on the site, you can put whatever you like, a logo, name, a saying, anything like that. So a lot of the times in some of the ads that we run, we'll actually put an engraving on there that is geared towards a birthday or Valentine's Day. We did like Swole Mate ones, like I Love You More, stuff like that, where we'd actually have it pre-made, pre-designed on the bottle, and then we'd shoot out the emails or whatever the marketing was to really gear it towards the gifting market.
God, I love that you kind of take the step for them to say, hey, look, this is presentable as a gift already. So I think that's it makes it a lot easier for someone to see why they might want to buy this as a gift. So let's talk about your Shark Tank experience. So tell us first, how did you guys get on the show?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had, it actually all came about 2013. I was still playing ball, and I had an email from my agent at the time who was actually said, hey, the producers from Shark Tank are looking for any former players or active players that have a really good idea, business that they would like to pitch on the show. And so at the time, I loved the show. I watched it all the time. And I said, hey, man, that's really cool. I have absolutely nothing. I'm still playing ball, but hopefully one day I'll be able to come back to this email and use it. So time went by, and I got out of football, went into my wife's business, was doing that. And then this idea came across my mind. And when I started producing it, it was kind of always in the back of my mind that, I'm going to get this product on Shark Tank. So I went back. Once we got the product produced, started selling it a little bit, I immediately went back to my old contacts. I found that emailed them, and got a response back and said they no longer work there. So from that, I then had to find who I had to contact, and I did, and I was able to really streamline the process. I still had to go through all the videos and send them all in and have a product that was actually worth it. But hundreds of sheets of paper signed later, and some crazy videos that I was making of me, at the gym, ripping my shirt off, all kinds of stuff. And we was told that we had a chance to go on. So at that point, it was all about, hey, I'm only going to be about 6 months in. Let's get the sales up as high as I possibly can, so that when I go on the show, it's somewhat presentable. So really the goal was, in the first 6 months, was to get $50,000 worth of sales. And when I actually walked on the show to pitch, we had $80,000 in sales at the time. So did a pretty good job with the first 6 months of getting sales, so that I could go on there and get a decent valuation.
So what did you come into this show wanting? What was the deal you wanted? What did you end up walking away with?
So when I went on, I asked for $100,000 for 10%. So I was valuing it at $1 million, and it was tough to evaluate the company being 6 months in, being so early in the game. But I thought it was a pretty fair valuation at the time. And really what I was looking for was, I was looking for the exposure and for the help, the marketing help. And that's really what I got out of it.
Got it. And so the deal you did was Mark Cuban. It was one of the I guess the investors, as well as, was there another investor on this deal too?
Yeah. So we ended up getting offers from all 5 sharks. And at the end of the day, it came down to Mark Cuban, and then Alex Rodriguez was a guest on the show. I think it was one of his first episodes. It might have been his first episode. I think it was actually. So he was a guest on the show, and they both wanted to come in together. They bumped it up to 15%. I got them down. But actually, I think they wanted 20. I got them down to 15% for 150K. So I got the valuation that I was looking for. Lost a little more equity that I was hoping for, but at the end of the day, I got two guys that were in the sports market. We now have the NBA, the MLB, and the NFL experience behind us. So really gave us huge credibility in the sports world to have both of them on the Ice Shaker team.
That's amazing. What is it like to work with them then, like these days when you, like, how do you, it sounded like you wanted to get on a show for the exposure, but then also just have these people to call, right? These people in your network, Mark Cuban, Alex Rodriguez in your network. So how does it come to your advantage now when you're running the business?
Yeah, it's amazing. Being in Dallas with Mark and his team has been awesome. I'm doing stuff with them a lot because of how close we are. And a lot of it comes down to panels and doing speaking engagements, stuff like that. But networking is absolutely huge. Mark has built out a team of multiple people that help. Their main job is just to help all his Shark Tank investments. He has so many now over the years, over 10 years of Shark Tank. I believe it's at least 80. It's probably over 100 different companies that he's invested in. And these people are there really, really just to help. So if I have any questions, if I need any help with anything, they're there to help me. So they brought in GNC early on. They helped walk me through the entire negotiations. Still to this day, we're on the phone trying to figure out how we can work better with them, but still reaching out to different retailers, using their connections there, and even just connecting me to other companies in their portfolio have been absolutely huge. If I have questions, say about SEO or marketing or whatever it is, there's somebody in his portfolio that is really good at it. That's an absolute expert in it, and they're happy to connect me to them and speak to their CEO or their head of marketing, whoever it is, for free. Just out of good faith because we're under the same portfolio. It's also helped with collaborations and getting giveaways and email blasts with other companies that are in a similar market space as me underneath the Mark Cuban portfolio. So that's been absolutely huge for me. And just keeps on leading to new connections, every day. So with Alex, it's been a lot different role because he doesn't have that same experience that Mark has. He doesn't have a team built out for over 100 Shark Tank companies like Mark does. So Alex is completely different. Really good at marketing and helping us get it out there. That way, he's got us into UFC gyms early on, and he has the whole fitness background. True Fusion is another gym that's really starting to take off that he's got us into, but always helping with events and stuff like that to promote the product, and that's definitely his strong point.
Yeah. So any like piece of business advice that you got from either of them that was really important for your growth, like things that maybe you never didn't realize until you heard it come out of their mouths? Can you think of anything like that?
Man, we don't necessarily talk to them in person very much. I'm in communication with them through email for the most part, but for me, it's mostly talking to the teams. I mean, these guys are, especially Mark, just insanely busy, and for a $75,000 investment to a billionaire, he's not going to really jump on the phone with me and talk anything out. But for big decisions, he's there. And I know we ran into just some pricing issues, stuff like that, and so I reached out to him and asked him what he thought. And within 15 minutes, he's replying back to these emails, and it's him replying back with an honest opinion. And it's not going to be a long, detailed email. It's going to be really short and sweet, but he is there to help it and give his advice. So for someone with that much power and authority and that busy, it's extremely impressive that he's still within 15 minutes answering to one of his 100 investment companies that he has.
Yeah, I've actually spoken to another Mark Cuban invested company on the show, and they said the same thing, that he will respond to an email any time of day. Almost seems like he'll get back to you if it's like an important question enough for you to reach out to him. What about what were the results of being on the show in terms of exposure and traffic or sales to the store? Like how big of a boost did it give you guys?
Oh, that's absolutely huge, and we keep seeing that. I mean, it's you can't even measure it because it's still happening today. Just the initial push, the first 2 weeks was huge, and a lot of people, not even necessarily just the first day, it really spans out to a whole week because a lot of people are recording it, they're watching it the next day, they're watching it through Hulu or other channels that week. So every day I still have people telling me, "Hey, I just saw you on Shark Tank. I just saw it for the first time yesterday, whatever it was." And what's really cool is that we did have the update as well in November that highlighted how well we were doing after the first year after airing. So we then got the boost from that as well. And now we're actually starting to get the reruns from CNBC after the first year. They'll buy it out and they'll start rerunning the show as well. So every time it airs, it's a huge boost to our website. Sometimes I don't even know until that day that it actually re-aired, and all of a sudden our website just absolutely blowing up. So that money that came in the first 2 weeks, we sold out on Amazon actually within the first 20 minutes. All the product on Amazon was gone. But that money that came in the first 2 weeks, we just kept it and really helped us just absolutely expand the line quick, fast, and efficiently. So the money from all the sales plus the money from the actual investment went all back in to grow us from being a one bottle product to really a company now with over 80 different products to offer.
Amazing. So I will talk a little about the site at icemaker.com. So one cool thing that I see is, and you mentioned this earlier about how you want to get the photos to give you a good 360 representation of the product. That's what I see, right? The very top is like a rotating image of the bottle. Talk to us about the rest of the design of the site. Like, what are some kind of conscious decisions that you guys made to improve the quality and conversion rates specifically of the site?
Yeah, it was tough. And something I really, when I first started, I didn't realize how important just speed was. And so the video at the top was a full length video. It's now been cut down. I think it's only 4 panels, but it looks like it's spinning. But at first it was just a full video, and it was so slow that I'm sure it was absolutely killing our conversion rate. So stuff like that I had to learn early on. We built out we had a company build out our site, and I think it ended up being something like $5,000. And I thought it was pretty cool, but the main features on it all worked on desktop, but they didn't work on mobile. And at the time, I didn't think it was a huge deal. I didn't think that many people bought off their phone, but realized really, really quick that I was probably one of the few that didn't buy off their phone at the time. And I'm sure that number just keeps getting higher and higher of how many mobile users there are that are just purchasing only on their phone. But we had to completely redo the website after that once we realized that 80 to 90% of our traffic was mobile, and our best features are all only being shown on desktop, and on mobile they don't look that great. So it really became a goal of mine to make it the best converting site possible. And with that came speed, design, and really just trust. I think trust is a huge factor for a website now, because people, if they don't trust it, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to run to Amazon, where they know they can return the product at any time. They know it's going to be there in 2 days, or they're going to get their money back. So how are you going to compete with that? And the only way to do that is to offer them a better experience on your website. So we're able to do that in a couple of ways. First, the trust factor. Second, we're able to offer them a different variety of product than we offer on Amazon. So we don't offer a full line on there. And we offer better pricing, and we offer free shipping and fast turnaround as well. We always jack up our pricing on Amazon to really cover for the fact that we're getting hit by big fees, and we also want to protect our website. So we always charge a little bit more on Amazon because of that reason. And then with the site, just really how can we get people to trust it? And that's where different apps and review systems come in that have been really helpful for us.
Can you speak about those? What kind of apps have you added to the site?
So right early on, we went with a review app called Yapo. They came in and they do a great job, and it's more than just reviews. I mean, there's going to be, if you go on our site, there's probably 2 or 3 reviews that were left today alone, and we have a carousel right on the front page that's going to show the latest and best reviews right there on the front page. So normally on a normal day, we'll have that whole entire banner will be filled with 10 reviews that all came in the day of. So absolutely huge for really just trust, because when you see 10 reviews that came in that day, that people are buying off the site. So
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I'm looking at it now. I see the carousel, but I didn't pay too much attention to the date. But yeah, there's a bunch from today already.
yeah, when you see that, and when I go on a website, it's the first thing I look at is, hey, is it updated? Is it being run? And when you see 10 reviews that came in the last day or that day, you're like, wow, these guys they're doing a great job. They're obviously sending the product out. People are enjoying what they're getting. So huge trust factor right off the bat. We try to couple that too with, I'm sure you'll see the shop pops at the bottom of the site that show in real time when people are buying from our website. So it really, what's cool about that is it's going to be social proof. It's going to show that people are on the site, people are buying. It's also going to show them options that they might have missed on the site. So if something cool pops up, like say, our protein cookie or protein coffee, something like that really isn't that well, really highlighted on our site, they're going to say, hey, what's that? They can actually click it, go into it, see what other people are buying. They might end up adding some protein coffee to their cart as well. So that's another really, really cool app that builds trust and also helps build sales as well. And and some of the other apps that have done really well for us, really help us convert, are something like the pop-up that you see on it. It's an app it's actually a free app that we use called Privy. And all it is it's going to pop up. It's going to ask for an email address. And early on in the game, I thought that this was kind of, something that I didn't want to do. I thought that it was spammy when a pop-up would come up. But if you read into it, research it, by not having that, it's a huge disadvantage for you. By having that on there, you're collecting emails. It's super, super valuable information that you can go back and send out to customers and really drive them back to the site, because at the end of the day, it's over 90% of people that come to your site are not going to buy. So if you're not collecting or getting some kind of data from them, you're just completely missing out on a huge opportunity. So we brought in the email sign up early on before Shark Tank and have been able to grow a massive email list because of it. So definitely highly recommend an email list, and you want to also incentivize people to join it as well. So with it, don't just make it super spammy emails that go out. Give them some kind of value, give them something that they actually want. Sales, give them opportunities to maybe buy product before it's even released yet, and really give them value out of that list so that they continue to stay on it and they don't just unsubscribe.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Chris. So iceshaker.com is a website. What would you say needs to happen in 2019 for you to consider this year a success?
Man, we've already had a great year so far. Mm-hmm. We have some big things coming, and I know we're having conversations with gyms like Lifetime Fitness. That looks like we might end up going into all of them. But really, this year I think it's more focus on retail. I think it will help just generate eyeballs, generate just more exposure to our product. So it's something that we really haven't pushed into because we're doing so well online. And when you do so well online, you kind of push that to the side. You see the high margins, and it's great. It's awesome. You're able to control everything, but I think you miss out on a lot of exposure and another just social proof as well, or just proof of concept that we're getting asked all the time. Hey, what stores are you guys in? A lot of people do like to see the product in hand, just like we were talking about earlier about actually holding the product, seeing the difference between other products on the market. The product at this point, it's such a premium product that when people see it in person, it sells, and they're actually blown away by the quality of the product. And sometimes it's hard to portray that without having it in their hands. So really trying to push into retail And that's kind of the goal for 2019.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for your time and coming on to share your experience, Chris.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Shopify Masters, the e-commerce podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs powered by Shopify. To get your exclusive 30-day extended trial, visit shopify.com/masters.